everywhere that I see is hood life. The block is hot, cops all around and the guns is out. People on the ground, mothers crying out, and it is what it is. It's hood life. Baby girl all grown up, and she's bad as hell, thick shown up. And she's got an attitude, cause her baby daddy left her when her son was two. Little brother locked, daddy not around, getting stressed out, trying to hold it down. Damn, look at her now, somebody said they seen her doing lap dances cross town. If you from the hood, say, you love living good, say, you rep your hood, say.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of Teresa's talk show. And my thing, it can be good in the hood. And guess what? It's going to be good in the hood as long as we keep, doing a positive show, inviting people to come on. People, there's a voice crying in the wilderness, and God hear you, I hear you, and everybody going to hear you. So if anybody out there watching this broadcast, watching this show, you got a burning desire, something you want to talk about, you just call me. My number is 413-777-3257. And I will be displaying my phone number at the end of this broadcast. Okay, everybody who watched last week, we had very fine young black man on the show. His name is Larry Lamb, and he has a very interesting story. 21 years of being incarcerated for a crime he did not commit. And he finally was set free. And he's got a book being written. He's doing other interviews. There's a lot that's been going on in his life since he's been released for a crime he did not commit. And so, like I say, today, I'm honored to have him back again on the show with part 2. So, like I told you last week, get on the phone, call your family members, call your sister, call your brother, call your friend, call somebody and tell somebody to watch this show. This is history. This is history. And so without further delay, I'm going to let him tell his story. And I'm introducing him again to those of you who did not have the honor of meeting him last week. Today you can. Mr. Larry Lamb, welcome to the show again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Okay, the last conversation that we were having, you were speaking about your pastor and, and Minister Gills, and I had to ask you a question because I have an uncle named Gills, who James Gills, and my Aunt Betty Gills, who he's in charge of the Ludlow prison. So we just had to clarify that to the viewers. Now, you're not talking about my uncle, okay? Get that. Okay, Mr. Lamb, can you continue where we left off?
Sure. Good evening.
Good evening.
I just thank God for Teresa inviting me to be on her program, and I thank God, for the wisdom, the understanding, and the peace that He have given me in the midst of this whole ordeal, because it was only by His grace. And it's only by His grace that I am what I am today.
Yes.
And I thank Him for it. But I think on last week we talked about mostly about my prison ordeal, and I come to the point where about the agency that worked my case.
Okay.
But I want to take you back a little bit. It goes much deeper than that.
Okay.
In my case, I wasn't the only one. I had 2 co-defendants involved in this case. The one that they declared to be the shooter, he was on death row. But they tried me first, and I received a natural life sentence. Then they tried the one that they deemed as the shooter, and he went to death row. So then this younger kid he saw what was going on with us, and he took a plea of no contest and received 20 years. He did maybe 11 years of that and was released. But just to show you how God is and how God will put you in the right place at the right time, I'm going to share this story with you. At the facility I was at, I worked at the sewing plant where we made officers' clothes. I worked the second shift. So this day, around 1 o'clock, a little after, I was sitting in the day room, and there was a piece of yesterday's newspaper, on the table. That little voice in my mind, he said, "Look at that paper." So when I picked it up, the headlines on it read, "A man on death row after 13 years. Case have been overturned." I just saw the headline. So that kind of interests me. So I opened it up, and when I saw my co-defendant's name, and the federal judge said, send him back to the county, said, re-sentence him, retry him, or release him. And they give him 6 months to do that. So, okay, I knew right there that sort of opened the door for me. And by inmates being on death row, automatically the state got to furnish them attorneys. My co-defendant, God blessed him with some good attorneys that they work for him, because most of those guys that are state appointed, they just going through the process. Yeah. They don't really do the work. Right. They don't do the groundwork. But that's why I say God blessed my co-defendant with some good attorneys. They came and talked with me a couple of times during my incarceration to learn all they could for me about the case. And so they worked his case and got it overturned and sent him back to the county. That's all they could do. But they knew a good attorney in Greenville, North Carolina. And they asked him would he take that case and finish working it to get my co-defendant exonerated, and he did, But then that day, I think this was like on September the 6th of 2006. My co-defendant, he was exonerated on May the 8th of 2008. The judge gave him 6 months. To just give you an example of how the courts are and how corrupt they are. Yeah. The judge gave him 6 months, but it took him a year and a half to release him and stuff. So, but once they, the deal went down with my co-defendant, he opened up the case for me. Yeah. Once I learned that, I wrote my pastor immediately, and I told him what was going on. He contacted the actual Innocence Project there in North Carolina, Miss Chris Mummer, with a big heart, a sweet young lady. She don't like to lose. She worked my case.
She's a lawyer?
Yeah.
What is her name again?
Chris Mummer.
Chris Mummer, okay.
She worked my case, and she don't like to lose. She got a big heart, and she love what she do. But after then, from 2008, it took her 5 years to get me released, to get me exonerated, because by her, she didn't want to go in. She wasn't going into court. What some people might call half cop. Anything that I told her, she was gonna look into it. Okay. I said, look, I said one time to myself, I'm going to stop telling this lady things, because, see, everything I tell her, she's going to investigate it. And I'm ready to go home and stuff. But everything I tell her, if I just call anybody's name, she's going to check, she's going to find them. She's going to find out what they know about the case. That's good in a way, because she had told me in the beginning, she said, I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to work your case. She said, but if I find anything that make me think that you were part of this crime, I'm out of here. You know, she's a sweet lady, and I had to commend them, you know, for their hard work, and I still do. Uh, but moving on from there, you know, being exonerated from those charges, you know, it was good to walk out of prison. And, you know, it was even good to be over at Wake Advancement because I met a lot of the men that I had been with over the years. They were there waiting and waiting and waiting, and nobody's in. And you know,
Yeah.
and I thank God that he allowed me that time with those men and you know, to spend time with them. And because a lot of them, they wanted to know, how did you get here? How did you get a map? You know, and I was telling them, I said, look, I shared with them like what the parole psychologist told me. When I met with him, he says, I like talking with men like you. I was kind of puzzled. And then he said, men, he said, you don't have no infractions. And he said, you know, a lot of men, when they first fall with a sentence like you have, he said they get write-ups and write-ups for the first 5-6 years. And then they kind of chill out. But in the rest of their sentence, a lot of them never get any more write-ups.
Yeah.
But then he said, but those write-ups they got in the beginning gonna come back to bite them at the end. And, you know, and to go at a facility where there were so many men that was in the position to be released, and they wanted to know, what did you do? And that's the first thing I would tell them, what the parole psychologist told me. If you got some infractions, they're going to hurt you. You know, I told them, I said, look, I used to write Raleigh. Raleigh is the capital of North Carolina. I used to write my case manager there in Raleigh, and you know, I would give him a piece of my resume. Look, I did this and this and this and this. Tell me, what can I do to help myself? You tell me. I done did it all I know to do. I've been to school for 8 years. I have no infractions. I was a part of this function. I was a part of that function. I took this program and I took that program. You tell me, what must I do that I can help myself? And I just word her like that. And then eventually I got a letter from them saying they was considering me for the MAP program. But I would tell, I stayed on the yard at Wake Advancement from May the 19th until August the 13th, every day talking with those men. They asked questions. What can I do? Can you help me? Can you write a letter for me? You know, that was my job. That's God wanted me to help people that couldn't help themselves. You know, and I would just, and I felt sorry for a lot of them, because when I tell them what the parole psychologist told me, then you know it would hurt them, because they knew their story.
Yeah.
They knew what they had did and
Right.
stuff. So you know, it was really on them, and they would leave me sad. You know, hearts hurt, and because they wanted to go home. I had one friend there, you know, and we met in the beginning, and we were always friends for years. And I knew he was there, and I told him, I said, look, I just come to visit with you for a few days before I go home. You know, and we.
How'd you know you was going home?
I knew.
You just had faith, so it really.
I knew, you know, that I was going home. I knew that because, you know, the court procedures, when at that evidentiary hearing,
Yeah.
that was one of the most comfortablest procedures I have ever been in a court procedure.
Because.
And even the judge told, you know, he commended the DA and my attorneys. He said, it's been a long time since I've seen the harmony in the courtroom that you guys have betrayed before me during this session. You know, it was just a comfortable time. And I know he was a good judge, and I know he was going to do his best to do what was right.
Can you tell the viewers, if you don't mind, if it's not getting, I mean, I know you have a book coming out sometime next year. Who was it that you was accused of killing, I mean, can you state the race of the man?
Sure. This man, he was, you know, really a lot of people. He was a Caucasian, a bootlegger, what we call down south in North Carolina. He was a bootlegger. He sold whiskey out of his house. He wasn't licensed to do it, and you know, and that's what it. I mean, that's what it was. We all knew him. He'd been in the community selling whiskey. That's how he made his living, by selling. He'd go to the whiskey store and buy cheap whiskey and double the price. If he buy a pint for $2.10, he sell it for $5 a pint, but you didn't drink in his house. But you know, I come to understand, you know, even things like that happen, and it happened to good people, but in the midst of it, at the end of the day, for myself, I had to realize and I had to see God in the midst of it.
Yeah.
You know, God allowed it, even just like, you know, like Scripture was in Job's case. You know, they were saying there was a day when the sons of God come together, and Satan was in the midst. But then, and Satan asked God, so if you take the hedge from around Job, I'll make him cuss you to your face. God told him, so, you know, you go ahead and you test him. You know, God allowed Satan to test Job.
Yeah.
Job stood the test. It's the same as with me. And I share with this, you know, you Christians, find yourself in the Bible. Find yourself in the Bible. I find myself in many places in the Bible. I can see myself in Joseph's story, where his brother sold him into slavery. I can see myself in Job's situation, you know, and I like over in Job 19, what he was saying, you know, and when he told his friends, said, look, you have accused me of this and that, but he said, let me tell you something. God have did this to me. You know, God, he had fenced me in. He had drawn me in his net. He had allowed these things to happen to me. So then in the midst of these things, you know, that happen to us, our purpose and our job is to seek God and say, Lord, what is your purpose for me being in this situation?
Do you think that, I know this is a question that a lot of people, you know, probably will want to ask you, because there's accusation that happened in North Carolina and Mount Olive.
Yes.
And that part of North Carolina has been known to have a lot of KKK there.
Sure.
Do you think that you being falsely accused of killing a white man, do you think it was do you think it was because of race? Do you think that you was accused because you were a black man, or did race have anything to do with it? I mean, after 21 years of being incarcerated and, you know, and having time to just really think and, you know, gather up all this information for your attorney, do you think race had anything to do with it because of the part of, you know, the world you come from?
I would say in a sense, but not the whole ticket. You know, being there, yeah, and by that being, but a racist state with hate crimes and activists there, but in that particular incident, I think this thing was fueled by the detective. And this detective and this man was very close. I've observed this detective's car at this man's house on many occasions. Why he never charged him for selling, operating without a license, I never knew. Maybe he could have been a silent partner. I don't know. But he was on up in the age, and like what I say, this crime happened in 1987. They picked me up for it 5 years later. And this detective, his thing was he wanted to solve that crime before he resigned. And before he resigned, and by him getting us convicted, he got a promotion, and then shortly after then resigned. And you could say, you never know who they are, because just like I tell a lot of people today, a lot of times the Klansmen, they are not always out there in the white sheets with the crosses like they used to be.
Yeah.
A lot of them is in the courthouses with robes on. They are lawyers, and they are still
police officers.
Yes, and they are still doing what they set out to do. They still fulfilling their agenda.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I can't really say that racist was, but there was a lot going on to play there. And I think the detective, Jones, I think he was the fuel to that. And the rest of that, the DA and everything, they just bought into it. And, in my case, and I look at it like this, they even brought a black judge in to try my case. So, they can say, well, we had a black judge. So you can't say it's racist because,
How did that black judge find you guilty?
Yeah, because of the evidence.
Okay, the evidence.
Because of the evidence. But you look at things like that, and I look at it, and I've shared since I've been out. I did an article back in February of this year in the Duplin Times down there, and I said, if the DA and the detective can move on in their lives and live with the lies that they know that they told,
yeah,
I can move on in my life knowing that I told the truth.
Right.
And then I took it a little further. God allowed me to share with the group down there, and took it a little further. I said, even those detectives use the taxpayers' money to make their lie to become a reality.
Wow. Can you tell us, I know we don't have that much time, I'm going to have to bring you back on again in the future because it's so much that happened, but can you tell us how you got released? What happened?
Well, I knew my lawyer, after the judge went through the information that my attorneys and the DA presented to him during the evidentiary hearing, about 90 days after then, it was just in May, I was released in August.
August of what year?
Of 2013.
Okay.
My family and my attorneys and the media, they was all at the gate. I knew because my attorney, she had called and talked with me and let me know that the judge had exonerated me and stuff. So I was kind of heads up, but I didn't understand the facility that I was on. They was dumbfounded. They didn't know anything. And I feel quite sure that she had talked to them unless she had waited for the Raleigh, to the Department of Correction to notify them. But anyway, I was there, and then at the end of the day, I knew I was going to be released that day. But at the end
How
of the day,
did you know that day?
Because my attorney had
your
told
attorney
me.
had told
She
you.
had called me and stuff, and but then at the end of the day, it was it was around 4:30, something to 5 that evening when I was released. And and then they come and try to rush me back. Get ready. I said, oh, wait a minute. I done been down for 21 years. You ain't rushed then, so look at this. Let me do me, yeah. And so it went along well, and getting to the gate, seeing my family and the news media and my attorneys and a lot of people that supported me. It was really an awesome feeling. And then they asked me, so what's the first meal you want to eat? I love seafood. So I said, I got to have me some fish, some seafood. So that was my first meal. When leaving there, we stopped by Golden Corral, and I stuffed myself with some seafood, some shrimp and fish. And,
okay.
But, that's what it was. And, coming home, and I was kind of shaken really because there were so many people coming and going. So many people glad to see me, happy for me, and and I was way over into the night, that Tuesday night. I got out on a Tuesday, and stuff, but I stayed down there until that Sunday.
We're in North Carolina.
Yeah, And then, well, my son from here in Springfield, him and the kids came down to pick me up. They got there that Saturday morning, and we all had a cookout and cooked out, fellowship that Saturday, and just enjoyed ourselves. And then that Sunday, we all went to church and
Praise God. Your son is from Springfield?
Yeah, he's been here for like 14 years. He called this his home.
Do you mind saying his name? Do he mind if you say his name?
Oh, his name is Anthony.
Anthony?
Yeah.
Lamb?
Yes.
Okay, so he left Springfield and went to North Carolina?
Yeah, him and 3 of my grandkids. Him and his 3 kids.
Okay.
They came and picked me up, and then he drove me back here because my lawyers, they wanted me out of the state.
Okay.
They wanted me out of the state, and my son, he wanted me with him. My sister down there, my sister, she thinks she's my mother.
Okay.
She thought she was really wanting me to stay with her.
Yeah.
You know, but in a sense, in a way, I needed to be with him. And stuff.
Okay. So what church did you go to? One in Springfield or?
No, getting out. First Sunday, I went to my church.
In North Carolina?
Yeah, in North Carolina. But then I go over to Shiloh from time to time because that's where they
in
were
Springfield?
affiliated. Yeah.
Okay, now you're talking about my family.
Yeah.
Shiloh.
Shiloh. I've been up. I think that's the first church I attend once I came to Springfield.
That's my uncle, Pastor Robert Daniels.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Jasper Street, Springfield.
Yeah.
Did you dance?
Huh?
Did you dance?
Yeah, we had a good time. We cooked out and and it was so good to see some men come to me crying about how happy and glad they were for me to be released.
Wow. Thank you so much and I know it goes on, there's more to the story, so hopefully you will be able to come back on. I know you got a busy schedule. A lot of people want to meet with you and hear your story, but I'm honored for you to come on this show and tell your story. So once again, everybody, I know I still want to hear more, but our time is up now, and I just want to thank everybody for watching the telecast, the broadcast this evening, and I hope everyone, has got something out of it. And watch the show next week because we're going to continue with positive people. And once again, the show is It Can Be Good in the Hood. Thank you, Mr. Larry.
Thank you.
Just another day in the hood for me. Trying to make $1 for my family. People hustling up and down the street. Everywhere that I see is hood life. The block is hot, cops all around and the guns is out. People on the ground, mothers crying out. And it is what it is. It's hood life. Baby girl all grown up, and she's bad as hell, thick shown up. And she's got an attitude, cause her baby daddy left her when her son was 2. Little brother locked, daddy not around, getting stressed out, trying to hold it down. Damn, look at her now. Somebody said they seen her doing lap dances cross town. If you from the hood, say, you love living good, say, you rep your hood, say.